Welcome to Doodlebugs, everybody. I should say a makeup Doodlebugs, since we had some technical issues last time and we didn't get to meet. We are doing a quick makeup session with my friends over at the, well, I'll let you introduce yourselves after I'm done, but I'm Miss Erin from the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art, which you two already know because you guys are often joining us for Doodlebugs. But if there's anybody if there's anybody who doesn't know you, can you tell us your names?
Melina, Madeline.
Very nice. Thanks for joining me today, ladies. We are doing a Doodlebugs on one of my favorite writers ever. His name is Edgar Allan Poe. And one of his most famous things he's ever written is a poem called The Raven. So I thought I would do this today because we also happen to have a painting on display at the museum right now. It's a portrait of Edgar Allan Poe. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of Poe's face as painted by a different artist, and then we'll go from there. So hold on one second while I share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so this is Mr. Poe, Edgar Allan Poe. He looks a little stuffy with his high collar, but he really liked things that were kind of creepy, which is so totally my vibe. I hope that you like a little bit of creepy too. This is the painting of Edgar Allan Poe that we have on display at the Museum of Art. If you haven't been this summer, this exhibition is up through Labor Day. I want to say it's actually up through the middle of September, but we have free admission through Labor Day, so come and visit us and you don't even have to pay to get in. This exhibition is artwork from Charlie Lazansky and her husband, Tomas Lazansky. So this painting is one Charlie did. Did you have a question?
No, I think it was just a bit of a line.
Okay. I kind of love this painting of Poe because Charlie made him really sort of messy, and I love that. Plus, it's kind of dark, so it kind of fits his personality with his love of creepy. Now, I thought I'd tell you just a little bit about ravens. They're very similar to crows. If you see crows around here, you might think they're ravens or vice versa. So here's just a little bit of differences between the two. Often they're mistaken for each other because they're kind of cousins. They're both in the same family of corvids. So I thought maybe we should just look at them closer for just 1 second. So if you see, the raven has fancy throat feathers where the crow doesn't. And I'm going to show you some real ravens in a little bit. It looks like they have a beard. It's pretty cool. Their tails are more pointy and they make this awesome croaking sound, which I'm also going to show you in just a second. And instead of just flying like a normal crow does, they love to do barrel rolls. They like to flip and twist around while they're flying. So they're pretty fancy. So here, that's a crow. And the next one will be a raven. Can you hear the difference? No. Should we play it again? Oops.
Yeah, I hear a bit of a difference.
The raven sounds a little throatier, I think. They're a little more, a little trill in their voice. But they don't just make the croaking, cawing sounds. They can actually talk like people. So I want to show you some videos of some real ravens. So this first one is a gentleman who found a raven on his, it looks like his balcony. And you'll hear this one's not talking like a person. This one's making some fun, cool, warbly sounds.
How you doing? You want to talk to me? Hi. Come on, let's say something. Oh, yes. Oh, it's windy there. Oh, you don't like the
Is
crows?
that the sound of the...
You don't like those crows coming back?
That's
No.
a raven.
They down there, they are. Aren't they? Yes, they are.
That's a different kind of sound that they make. And did you notice his big throat feathers that look like a beard almost?
Sounds like a...
Yes, it's very interesting, that sound. I don't even know how they do that. All right, so this one is actually going to sound more like a person.
Who's a good bird?
Who's a good bird? Who's a good bird?
So could you hear him talking like a person?
Yeah, is he saying like... "Who's a good bird?"
The first voice you heard was the lady who was recording it, but the lower voice, that's actually that bird. I think he must hear people ask him, who's a good bird? Because he's repeating it. And I'm guessing that he learned it from listening to a man, because it sounds like a man's voice. How about this one?
Oh. Sounds like he's saying hi.
Come on,
Come on,
come on,
come on.
come on. It's a good boy.
It's a good boy. I like that he starts off by saying, hey, like he's saying, hi, how are you? He just says, hey. And this one has been taught to say a word that is famous from Edgar Allan Poe's poem about ravens. So listen to this one.
And nevermore. Waka 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 waka.
He also
And
sounds like
nevermore.
Fozzie Bear.
Waka 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 waka.
Did you hear him say nevermore?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to come back later when we read the poem. How about this one?
What's up? What's up?
What's up with you?
What's up?
Not much.
What's up?
Who's a good bird?
What's up?
Who's a good bird?
What's up?
Say it in my voice.
What's up?
Nice job.
I love that he can do different voices too. They're very, very smart. And then this one is going to ask if she has taken a bath.
Hi, Romeo. You gonna talk for me?
What you doing?
What you doing?
What you doing?
Hi, handsome.
Did you take a bath?
I didn't.
Did you take a
I haven't
bath?
taken a bath in like a week, Romeo.
Did you take a bath?
No. Are you judging me?
Did you take a bath?
What you doing? Hi.
I said asking.
Hi.
Did you take a bath?
That's the phrase.
Did you take a bath?
Handsome boy.
Did you take a bath?
Yes.
And then this one has a little bit of a story to it. So get this. This bird has been trained for a long time because he lives in a sanctuary and he gets to be around people a lot more. So he's learned a lot more from the person who works with him, including how to cough. So keep an ear out for that. Oh, this one's a different one, sorry.
Hi. Mwah. Mwah. What else would you like to say? Mwah. 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 Can I have a kiss? Mwah.
This one can talk too.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Meet Mischief, who's about to completely reshape your views on ravens. Hatched to parents at the World Bird Sanctuary, he will turn 20 this year. Paige Davis, who worked as the curator of bird training at the sanctuary, did extraordinary work educating the public about these amazing ravens that can mimic human speech. While she gets to interact with all kinds of birds, Mischief holds a special place in her heart. Watch how he moves forward when he doesn't want her to stop petting him. And here, watch his reaction to seeing her after a while.
I missed you.
He'd even bring her gifts.
Is that for me? Thank you.
Paige's interactions with Mischief demonstrated how intelligent ravens are.
Go get the orange one.
He washes everything he eats to soften his food and to get extra hydration. He even knows a thing or two about recycling. When Paige would take him outside, and he was ready to go indoors, he'd communicate that to her by just flying to the crate.
You want to go home?
And then, of course, there's Mischief's mimicry of human speech.
Hi. 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 Hello.
Hard to believe, but he can imitate it too.
How do you hurt?
He's sick, yes.
But we have to.
So next time you see a raven, remember what they are capable of, just like Mischief.
Are you an owl? You enjoying the ice? Hi.
All right, so here are some raven feathers. And one of the coolest things about ravens, I think, is besides how they can talk like a person, they have these gorgeous, shiny black feathers that if you look at from a certain angle, they turn different colors, mostly blues and purples, but sometimes even green. They are so pretty. And if you get even closer, this is what one of the feathers looks like really, really up close. You can see that each of the little fronds in the feather has kind of, it almost looks like sequins. So they reflect light if it hits it at the right angle. They're really cool. And that's what we're gonna make today, sort of. So I just went online and I found these two pictures. One is the whole raven, and then another is just a feather. So you can do something like this, or you can draw your own, but that's how we're going to start our project today. In the meantime, I want to read you. There we go. I want to read you a story because Doodlebugs is always has a story, right? This is the story of the raven that Edgar Allan Poe wrote about. It was a real raven. This book I got from the library. Hopefully it's not too reflecty and you can see it. It's called A Raven Named Grip. Now this book is written by Marilyn Singer. And I think you can see, oh, it's reflecting my computer screen back at you. But it has a giant raven on the front of it with Mr. Poe and a different guy. A raven named Grip. There he is again. And look, this is kind of like the feather that I found a picture of. So you can draw your own version of that if you want to. All right. Charlie, Katie, and Mamie Dickens were not fond of Grip the raven. The bird chased them around the house. She bit their ankles. She chipped off paint to eat. But the children's father adored the raven. He was Charles Dickens. Have you guys ever heard of A Christmas Carol? That's written by Charles Dickens. My favorite is The Muppets Christmas Carol, but it's all based on the same story that Charles Dickens wrote. That's who this guy is. Charles Dickens was the most famous writer in all of Great Britain. He'd already published 4 popular novels, first as installments in magazines and then as books. Even Queen Victoria was a big fan. In Victorian England, people had many pets besides cats and dogs, especially birds. Today, it's illegal to keep wild birds like ravens, but back then, people caught or purchased them to keep in cages. Wealthier folks sometimes bought exotic species such as parrots or mynas. Charles Dickens chose ravens. So there's Charles over there in his study watching Grip eat the paint off of the windowsill. He's bouncing around the room, getting into all kinds of other trouble. And he's chasing the kids. So mean. In 1841, when he was working on his next book, Barnaby Rudge, Dickens decided to make Grip a character in it. The main character was a man who wasn't very clever, but he had a pet raven who was. Dickens's descriptions of how the bird behaved were accurate and amusing. Ravens can imitate human speech, and Barnaby's raven talked a lot. Dickens's raven could speak too. Her favorite expression was, "Hello, old girl," which obviously he taught that to her. It was the last thing she said before she died. The lead paint chips she was eating off of the windowsill had done her in. Whoops. Charles Dickens was very sad. His children were not. During the Victorian era, it was popular to have a pet stuffed when it died. So Dickens sent the raven to a taxidermist. Then he hung Grip in a glass case above his desk to keep him company while he wrote. And he got another raven, which he also named Grip. Mamie described Grip too as mischievous and impudent. Perhaps that bird was a leg biter too. See, there he is in his, or she is in her box, taking her home. And the second one looks like it's still chasing one of the kiddos. Grip 2 was followed by Grip 3. Henry Dickens, another of Charles's 10 children, that's a lot, said that this raven was so bold that it bullied their mastiff, Turk. I don't know if you've seen a mastiff in real life, but mastiffs are giant dogs. And this one was being bullied by this little bird, which is kind of funny. The bird would stride up to the large dog's bowl, and Turk would back off as Grip ate the best of his food. Then the raven would also crack window panes with its beak and swallow keys and then spit them back up, much to Dickens's amusement. I don't think that would be amusing. Would you like him to swallow some of your stuff and then spit it back up? No, thank you. Nope. Because he was so popular, the author received an invitation to visit America and talk about his books. His wife, Catherine, came along, but she was worried about leaving the children. To comfort her on the long journey, Dickens's friend, Daniel MacLise, painted up a picture of Charles, Mamie, and the new baby, Walter. He put Grip 2 in the painting as well. Catherine gave the picture a special place in every hotel room where she and Charles stayed. And that's the painting that they got and they took with them on their travels. So you can see Grip 2 there. Before they got to Philadelphia, Dickens got a note from an American writer who wanted to meet him. The man had read Barnaby Rudge and liked it. He was amused by the raven especially. He'd even written a good review in the Saturday Evening Post, which was a highly respected newspaper. Though in it, he said that it would have been an even better book if the raven had croaked throughout to foretell doom. The American writer was not famous yet. His name was Edgar Allan Poe, and he was rather poor. He was having a hard time trying to support himself and his wife by writing mysteries and horror stories. It looks like Dickens is reading the review of his book in the newspaper and the letter that Poe sent to him. Poe showed up at Dickens's hotel room in a mended gloves. Charles Dickens greeted him in a velvet vest with a gold chain and a green necktie with a diamond clasp. Poe most likely noticed the painting of Grip and the Dickens children. He was delighted to discover that the bird in Barnaby Rudge was based on Dickens's own pet. The two men talked about books and poems. Dickens promised to try and get Poe's work published in Great Britain, although he didn't succeed. Poe's stories were published in many popular American magazines, but he still wasn't famous. That happens to a lot of artists too. He needed a hit, and according to most Poe scholars, Grip the Raven provided it. Several years after meeting Dickens, Poe put the bird into a spooky poem called The Raven. In the poem, the raven mysteriously appears and reminds the narrator of his lost love, which drives the man insane. But this bird is not a big talker. Throughout the poem, it croaks just one word: nevermore. The Raven was published in 1845 in the New York Evening Mirror, a weekly newspaper that covered arts and literature as well as the local news. It was an instant success, and it made Edgar Allan Poe a celebrity. He was recognized everywhere. Children would follow him in the street, flapping and croaking like a raven until the poet would spin around and say, "Nevermore." Then the children would run off squealing. Yet for all his newfound fame, Poe was still poor. The poem earned him hardly any money at all, although it became, and still remains, one of the best known poems in the world. Look at him turning around to scare the kiddos. Charles Dickens outlived Poe and wrote many renowned books, including his most beloved work, A Christmas Carol. The painting of his children and Grip 2 hangs in the Charles Dickens Museum, the London house where he once lived.
Flower.
Next to the picture is a stuffed raven in a glass case, but it's not Grip. It is a bird that was owned by Bransby Williams, an actor who often performed scenes from Dickens's books on stage. So where is Charles Dickens's raven? They're looking up at it in the case. After Dickens died, Grip was bought by a gentleman who would later become the mayor of London. Then the bird passed from one collector to another until at last she was purchased by Colonel Richard Gimble, a pilot, professor, and department store founder who had a treasury of rare books, particularly ones by Charles Dickens and Edgar Allan Poe. Gimble was from Philadelphia, a city where Dickens and Poe had met. In his will, he left his entire collection of Poe's work to the Philadelphia Free Library. Along with that, he donated Grip. If you've ever seen A Miracle on 34th Street, they were having kind of Christmas wars between Macy's and Gimbel's. It's that guy, Gimble. Today, anyone who visits the library in Philadelphia can see the raven who inspired two of the world's best-known authors. If you close your eyes, you can picture her chasing Charlie, Katie, and Mamie around the room and biting ankles, while their famous father dreams up his next book. And you can imagine another group of children flapping and croaking behind a poor, talented poet, and then scattering like a flock of birds when he whirled around and spoke the magic word, nevermore.
And there you're supposed to cover.
Then at the end of this book, if you're ever interested, you should definitely check this book out at the library. At the end of this book, it talks about the ravens that still live at the Tower of London in England, the royal ravens. They have a very cool story. And at the very, very end of this book, it tells you a little bit more about how smart ravens are. So it's got lots of cool facts in it. There's some fun stuff too. So go check that book out because it's awesome. It has lots of good stuff in it. But I thought we could do our art project now instead. So if you have your paper and your pencil, the first thing you can do
We
is
have a special pencil.
perfect. Ooh, special pencil. Hey, look at that. It's from the Cedar Rapids Public Library.
And I think that's right next to the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art.
It is. We are right across the park from each other. And did you
Oh,
know that the
also-
Museum of Art used to be the public library? Mm-hmm. A very long time ago. Because our building, the museum building, was built over 100 years ago. So it was originally built to be the library, but then the library got big and it didn't fit in that building anymore. So they moved to a different building. And then we came and scooped it up and put our art inside that building instead. So it's kind of got a cool story now that we're sort of neighbors. Anyway, paper and pencil. Like I said, you can either print off a picture of a feather or a raven, or you can do what I did. I printed mine off the computer, or you can just draw one yourself onto your paper. I'm going to show you a trick though. If you take a shortcut like I did, because I was short on time, I printed this one off, and then on the back side of this paper, I scribbled all over with my pencil, because now I can put my art paper behind it and then trace over it, just like tracing paper. So I am gonna flip my screen over so that I can show you what I'm doing. All right, hold on one second. Slide this over. I have a cool little mirror here that'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, so
I can't quite see it.
She's gonna put there.
Oh, there.
can you see it okay? Okay.
Yes.
So I have my regular paper. This is actually watercolor paper, so it's really thick. And I have my printed off picture of my feather that has the scribbles on the back. It's good if you scribble really dark, but it doesn't even have to be super dark. It's gonna be really cool. And you see how this feather has like lots of these little cutouts in it? I'm not even gonna worry about that. I'm just gonna use my pencil and draw around the edge of it. I'm kind of pushing hard with my pencil, but you don't even have to push too hard. Most of the time it works just fine. I'm going to do this little cutout though. Go all the way around. And if your paper kind of scoots around on you, that's totally fine. So here's what it looks like underneath. I'm going to pull this up so you can see. Can you see it traced the feather onto my drawing paper? You see it? It's kind of light, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be super dark for what I'm going to do. But if you want to, you can go back over this and trace it a little darker so you can see it better. You don't have to though. I am going to show you several different ways to do this. You can use whatever art materials you have. So one version is just plain paper. And where is it?
There you go.
A black crayon. So if you wonder, I always peel all my crayons so I can get to them better. You don't have to do that. But start off by coloring in the whole feather. And I'm using black because raven feathers are black for the most part. And I'm pushing really hard. You want to push as hard as you can so that it looks shiny like real raven feathers do. So scribble and push really, really hard. And you know what? Sometimes that means that you're going to break your crayon. That's okay. They still work even when they're broken. Scribble, scribble, scribble.
Black crayon. I gotta go look in the other box.
Ooh, I'm pushing really hard so that it's nice and shiny and it's making crumbs. And that's okay. And look, have you noticed that I'm actually kind of going outside the lines? It's not super careful. That's okay. It doesn't matter because later I can cut it out. And then I can cut off the part that I didn't do very well. So you can do it this way. I'm not going to do the whole thing just to show you how to start. But scribble it as hard as you can so that you can get it as dark and shiny as possible. and that's gonna work best. I don't know if you can see that, but it's pretty shiny. Now, the other version I did is this one. I used colored pencils. These are actually kind of fancy watercolor pencils, but you can use whatever colored pencils you have. You can also use
Look at that.
paint or markers. Anything that's going to soak into this paper is good. But like I said, I use colored pencils to show you. And then on top of this, because remember what color raven feathers are. Raven feathers are not rainbow like this. Raven feathers are mostly black. So I have, I'm peeling it off. I have, this is a pastel, an oil pastel. It's like a really juicy, soft crayon. And it's kind of halfway between a crayon and a chalk. But I'm going to use this. You could use crayon instead if you don't have pastels. But I am going to cover, oh, see, it broke. This happens all the time. I'm going to cover all of my pretty colors with this pastel. And again, if I scribble outside the lines, that's okay, because I'm going to go back and cut it out anyway. All right. So pastels are really fun because they are super dark. Sometimes it's hard to get crayons to color dark, but pastels color dark all the time. It's very fun. And don't be sad if I'm covering up all my cool colors, because I'm going to show you a trick where you can uncover some of the color.
Ooh, she could scratch it out.
That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
How did you know?
Are you going to use something sharp like a pencil and then scratch out the...
You can totally use a pencil. I was actually going to say you can use different things. What's that?
And then you'll use a pencil to scratch out the veins in the feather?
Yes. Although, like I was saying, I think you can use a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be just pencil. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, but I have a lot of crumbs. Ooh, I have a lot of crumbs on here from those pastels. So I'm going to shake those off into my trash can to get rid of them. Okay, so now I have a covered up colored feather. I have used pencils to scratch off some of the pastel. I have used, where'd it go? I have used toothpicks. Oh, I should warn you too. This is what happens to your hands when you use pastels. They're kind of messy. I've used toothpicks to scratch it off, but my favorite thing to use, and if you do this, you should ask permission first, but I like to use a fork. So if you know how feathers are built, they usually have a line that starts down by the stem and it goes through the center of the feather all the way to the other end. I am going to do
I already know how they are built since I've been learning.
Awesome. So you're going to be really good at making feathers then. So I'm going to use just one corner of my fork to make a line from one end to the other. Can you see how it scratches the black off of my drawing? There it is. You can see it scratches it off, but because it's pastel, it kind of wipes right off. Then how feathers are made, they always have that center line, but then coming off of it, it's like a tree where they have lines coming from the center toward the outside. So I'm just going to keep scratching.
Oh, that's so pretty.
It looks cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
This is one of my favorite projects because you can kind of make it whatever you want it to be, and they always turn out cool. And there's all my crumbles. This gets a little bit messy. I'm going to flip it around. And do you see how the lines go from the center sort of at an angle out like that? I'm going to go the other way, the opposite direction when I come from the center toward me this time.
Peach crayon. Peach
And you see, I'm not being super careful. This is a lot like scribbling again. So you can do this however you want to. And if it's messy, that's okay. All right, so more crumbles off of my fork. I'm gonna go back later with a baby wipe and get the rest of the stuff off of my fork. It comes off pretty easily, so that's nice. And then I can wash it. So this is what it looks like up close. You can see that color has come through underneath the black, bless you. If you do the plain black crayon on plain paper, but you still want it to look really kind of fancy, here's another way you can do that. Oops. I have, where's my scissors? I have one that I've already done here. I'm going to cut this off so I can show it to you. Kind of big and it won't fit on the screen. Here we go. This one, I did all crayons, all black, and then I used paint. I used blue and green and purple paint. And this I had to mix up. So you might have different purples than I do. But this is just tempera paint. And then some plain water, because you want this paint to be sort of runny. And a lot of times tempera paint is kind of thick. So I'm just adding a bunch of water to this to make it sort of runny. Let's see. Let's mix this and see how it looks.
Some yarn.
I want it to drip, and so far it's not dripping. So I'm going to add more water. Scoop, scoop, scoop.
Wow. I have that too. Hey, but I have some
Well,
too.
she got
Ooh.
it. Wait a
Now
minute.
it's dripping. Okay, so if you have some paint that you want to use like I am, this is all you have to do to get that cool looking feather that I made. I'm going to dip it in some of my paint. And then I'm just going to use my finger and tap on the brush. And it's going to make a little bit of a splatter. I'm just tapping really lightly so that I don't end up with purple splatters all over my desk and on myself. But if you want to splatter, you know, as long as it's okay with mom or dad or whoever's in your house, and as long as you help with cleanup, it's okay to make a mess. But do you see how it looks now that it's splattery?
Yeah, it's really pretty.
So it's still mostly black, but now it also has some color in it. And like I said, if I have some scribbles outside of the lines, I can just cut this feather out and then it doesn't have any mistakes anymore. It's totally perfect. Now, I'm going to take this off so you can see me again. While you guys are working, I thought I would show you a silly little video of The Simpsons. If you've ever seen that show, they are doing a version of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven poem. So while you're working, I'm going to show you this. Okay, that looks like, okay. Here we go.
The Raven. Once upon a midnight dreary,
While I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door.
There's some visitor.
I muttered,
Tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more.
are we scared yet? Bard, he's establishing mood.
Ah, distinctly I remember. It was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow.
Huh?
Sorrow for the lost Lenore.
Oh, Lenore.
For the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating,
"'Tis a visitor entreating entrance at my
You
chamber
can
door."
see through it.
I know. Just
Presently, my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer.
"Sir,
Said I,
or madam, surely your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so
Hey,
said to
Miss
you,
Erin, could we stop the video,
when we
please?
came tapping at my chamber door, that I
Thank
scared."
you.
I'm just finishing cutting out my feathers so I can show you what mine look like when they're finished.
Erase my feather.
Are you lacing your string?
You have string for yours?
I do.
Ooh, I
think you
can't wait
drew
to
a
see
good
what
one.
that looks like.
Good feather.
All right. I cut my feathers out. So they are all done. Get rid of my trash. So here is my oil pastel and colored pencil one. And if I wanted to get super fancy, I could cut into the edges of my feather to make it look like it's really frilly on the edges. And then I have the painted one. This is what the painted one looks like when it's finished.
It looks like a galaxy.
It does.
Drag that through.
So I'm gonna use I have these crazy scissors, you guys. It's not something most people have, but I got them. I got them as a gift because I like to cook and I really like to use lots of fresh stuff like herbs, mint or basil or rosemary. So things with leaves. And these scissors are made for cutting things like basil into tiny, tiny strips. But I thought they would make really good fronds for my feather. So I'm gonna try this and hopefully I won't mess it up. But if you have regular scissors, you can use regular scissors to do this.
My finger, but my finger.
They're really hard to use on this paper though, because this paper is super thick.
The scissors are cool.
Aren't they fun? I really like to use them on like basil and stuff like that. But then I started thinking, you know what, they'd be really good for art projects. And then voila, it works really nicely. Oh, and I just put my finger in some of the paint that's still wet. So whoopsies. I'm just gonna bend them different directions to make them look frillier on the edge.
Miss Erin, I think that you should wash your hands.
Yep.
A wet paper towel to wipe.
But this is what happens when we make art, friends. We get messy. It's part of the fun. And I do have paper towels handy for exactly this reason. So, how are your feathers or birds coming along? Ooh, look how dark and shiny that is. Very nice. Are you gonna cut it out or are you gonna leave it like this?
I just got an idea.
Oh, she's got an idea.
In purple?
Yeah, purple and some blue.
There's some different.
Okay, we're getting to the point where we're almost ready to go do our next projects and I'll have to let you go. So if you want, I would love for you to show me what you're working on.
And I'm going to show you the feather that you did. Or this?
It's not feathers.
Oh, okay.
It's supposed to be a little the toy thing.
A little toy thingy.
All right. Oh,
Ooh, I like
so
that.
shiny.
You know what I did?
What?
First, I colored it mostly black, and then if you look at it at just the right angle, then you can see the light reflecting.
I can see it.
Ah, totally. Just like a real raven feather. How did you do that?
Way, then you can see the purples and blues that I drew on with crayon.
Did you color those on the top of the black? And did you use regular crayons on top of that?
Yep.
The blue and purple was just regular crayon too?
Yeah.
Cool. See, I love this project because you can make feathers out of almost anything. and they always turn out super cool. All right.
You know what I'm doing now?
Oh, she's gonna go.
I need a little scratch them away.
I can't wait to see what your yarn is for.
I'm gonna show her what you've done with your yarn.
Would you show
Oh,
us?
well, I have a special kind of paper that has things that I tear off the edges, and I was just weaving it through that.
Oh, I miss that paper. Ooh, oh, that turned out really cool. What did you use to scratch your crayon with?
So,
A pencil. Oh, and it worked perfectly.
and it also made it so it wasn't too contrasting, since it drew in some grayish.
Right. And it's also shiny, just like your black crayon.
Yeah, and
Pencils could. Pencils
that's
always good.
what I did with my pen.
Cool.
I like it.
It's fun to
Thank
see.
you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Madeline,
Did you want to share yours, Miss, or
you want to show us?
Yeah, but
Well,
I'm
she's
almost
gotta go.
done.
She's gotta go. So if you want to show her, you gotta show her now.
I'm trying to make a little kite thing.
Oh, she's making a kite.
Oh, very nice.
Okay.
And if you ever want to send us pictures after our class ends, after you have some more time to work on your project, you can always send me pictures because I love to see what they look like when they're all done.
I got a picture. Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. All right, with that, I must say goodbye for today. But thank you.
Thank
I'm so
you.
glad we got to see you this month, even though we missed you the first try.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, ladies.
Have a good day.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!